How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the really cool interview which we're going to be having with JasonArchaix over at Archaix in Texas. And yes, we are going to be deep diving about our past, about what has been happening before all of these civilizations have collapsed, and pretty damn quickly too. Have we been seeing similar things in the times we live in now? Let's talk in depth to our awesome dude over in Texas. Welcome, JasonArchaix, to the website where we can talk about whatever we want without worrying about the YouTube terms and conditions. Welcome, brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Yeah. We've been really up against it. We've been systematically breaking pattern, and you know what that's all about. It's been crazy, but all good in the hood. So let me see, where can we start? Because this is quite a fascinating subject we're talking about. From what we understand, civilization over the past has literally collapsed and reset around 4 times. Now, some people say 6, but it's very hard to pin it down because, of course, this research is ongoing. But like we said over on YouTube, you know, the things that we are seeing now about the censorship, especially about the gender stuff and everything else, you know, have we seen in the past before these collapses, things to go wrong with the financial system? Because lots of people out there, they still are under the notion that we, right here, right now, are the most civilized, advanced civilization, should I say, on planet Earth, which I don't think is the case. There had to be more civilizations way before us, way more advanced. Now, do we get to a certain point where the plug is pulled, etc.? What have we been finding out about the similarities before all of these collapses?
Boy, it's a lot to unpack right there. That's a lot to unpack. Oh, okay. Let's take an easy one first. An easy one. Assuming the narrative is true, because I do have a whole shelf here full of nothing but Roman Republic. I've got Roman Republic, Roman. I've got all Roman monarchy, Roman Republic, and a Roman Empire. I have all of Gibbon's works, and like I said, Carlyle. We were talking about him earlier. I've got all these historians on the Roman Empire. Will Durant. Let's assuming that narrative is true. It's real rapidly, Rome. It seems like as soon as Rome basically lost its moral fabric, it didn't take long before it started losing its provinces. Its outlying provinces fell first in mysterious ways. A lot of historians have always been baffled about what happened to the Dacians. The entire race of the Dacians just vanished, left the whole province empty. No one really knows about it. Now I do. Now I'm very familiar with the time period because at that time period, the only thing I have in my notes at that time was the Phoenix phenomenon. That's the only thing that appeared in that time. But it happened around the decline of Roman morale. What people today don't really understand is the high moral fabric of ancient civilizations. I'm talking about women were treated with absolute respect. They had places of honor. They owned companies, corporations. In ancient Rome, during the monarchy, even during the imperial period, women were still treated with that utmost respect. Of course, you had prostitutes and harlots on the streets and all that, but among the equestrian class, which is your upper middle class, all the way to lower nobility, and your merchant classes, all the way through the nobility and to the Senate. It says women had a lot of power in Rome, and a lot of things were frowned upon. Many Christians today pride themselves on the fact that they really lay it on thick that they are the moral, righteous pillars of today's world, and they're holy and they're on God's side and all that. But the Romans believe the same thing, and it really kind of makes you wonder when the Romans weren't even a religious people. They let all their subjects and all their provinces worship whatever gods they wanted to, as long as they rendered unto Caesar what belonged to Caesar. They didn't care. about your religion or your faith or philosophy. If you were going to be a Roman citizen, you're going to pay your dues to Rome to enjoy that privilege. And with that privilege came many rights, privileges, and immunities. And this is how Rome worked. But they weren't religionists. They weren't religious like the Greeks. They weren't religious like their neighbors. So it's very unusual to find a people, the Romans, who were not really religious, and not for religious reasons did they do this, but they still treated everybody with respect. Roman law and legislatures, the Roman Senate put out moral laws. You couldn't violate those moral laws. They had all the laws: don't steal, don't lie, don't bear false witness, all the traditional laws almost every country has. But they also went overboard on a lot of laws. A lot of things were not cool among the Roman society. And these were like etiquette. Very few nations ever published whole series of statutes on etiquette, how to behave in public, how you can talk. They even had laws against cursing. Most people don't realize this. You still with me, Funky?
Yep, sure am, mate. We're just checking comms, make sure we're all good. Every now and again, I think what I'll do is I'll give you center stage so you can run with it, because the stuff that we've got to unpack is crazy.
Oh, that's cool. So I'm going to wrap up this one point, but
yeah,
it's the point is the Romans began to lose this. Even when they're conquering other countries, they would impose Roman law in those provinces, and people would be astonished, like, damn, this isn't so bad after all. We got conquered by somebody who came in and gave us more laws and better laws than the ones that we already had governing over us, and they have the power to enforce them. And this is why a lot of different countries didn't put up much of a resistance. There was resistance in Nicomedia. There was resistance in Numidia in Spain, and some other provinces. But overall, people just yielded to Rome because they already knew word had spread. It's like a friendly conqueror in most cases, not in all. Your people resisted like hell. The British resisted, the Picts resisted, the Scots resisted, and the Romans ended up leaving. But the point I'm trying to make, even Hadrian's Wall didn't help the Romans. They got tired of the guerrilla warfare. They weren't equipped for guerrilla warfare. So they left. They ended up leaving the Isles. But my point is this: the empire of Rome was fantastically powerful, intellectual, elitist in the Senate, had administered the affairs of state for 1,000 years. And yet, as soon as they began to morally decline, that's when they fell apart. Odovacar, the German, and the 10 armies of Europe came together, 476 AD, and rapidly took apart the Roman Empire. And then the only Roman power after that became the Church, the Roman papacy. And then it too divided between the Eastern Orthodox Byzantium, which became Constantinople, and then the Pope and the cardinals, the Vatican. But yes, that reset was unexpected by the world, but it happened after a very steep and rapid moral decline. The same thing that has been initiated. The United States has been spearheading things for a long time in politics, in religion, and culture. And in 1962, the Supreme Court shot down the Ten Commandments. It shot down a whole bunch of things. It shot down a whole bunch of things that basically upheld the moral fabric of the nation, and it started allowing things that were immoral because of constitutional rights. Well, from 1962, America plunged. We lost most of our, we outsourced and lost almost all of our mining, all of our iron ore production, all of our steel production, all of our automobile production. Since 1962, other countries literally picked up all of our industries, because after 1962, our politicians immorally just started giving away our industries to all these other countries to bring them up to our standards while we went down.
Yeah, selling out.
Basically selling out. And so moral decline is that's my point. Moral decline is one of the signature reset triggers.
Yeah, it's definitely a precursor before a collapse, like we've seen, like you said in the past as well. I mean, the stuff that we're seeing here in the UK is unbelievable, with all of these pronouns, the alphabet people, like we refer to them as, because they're continually changing the the abbreviations for whatever gender they believe, you know, they're upholding and all the rest of it. So it's all by design, like you said, to create confusion. And this has been happening in Roman times when that all collapsed. And now we are seeing exactly the same thing again. And no doubt, if you go back to Sumerian times, etc., there's probably data about all of that sort of thing happening there as well before that all come on top.
Oh well, we have more recent examples. I mean, in France, in the early 1700s to 1750s, we have a massive amount of moral decline when this certain people infiltrated and started helping the king of France legislate, pass his laws, enforce his laws. You know, I call them the tiny hats, but they were all in France, and the tiny hats are the ones that absolutely orchestrated the French Revolution and overturned the monarchy and had the king, queen beheaded and all that. The French Revolution was 100% a tiny hat operation, and but it too was accompanied with this moral decline. And this is something we find in like the protocols of the learned elders of Zion. We find out that one of the tools that they use to bring down the strength of an enemy nation is to attack their morals and ethics and their basic their values, to undermine those. So in order to weaken that populace and to attack their patriotism. And so it's in the Communist Manifesto. It's one of the things that is necessary to overturn a powerful country is to work on their ethics and morals and bring them down, cause them to degenerate.
Do you know what you're saying about them? The Elders of Zion, that old book or that old manuscript, very similar to some of the things which we've been reading in the Book of Enoch too, around those times, a hell of a long time ago. And it just goes on and on and on. And a very good book. And these, believe it or not, are getting very hard and very rare to get now. If you can find the originals.
Astral Theology?
Yeah, by Michael Tessarian.
Okay.
Get it right around.
That's Michael. That's Michael Tessarian?
Yeah, is right. That book there, which was fascinating. If you want to really look at religion and how it affects lots of other things. Also, as soon as I started following you, it's been about 18 months, 19 months now. The first thing that popped into my head was, again, Michael Tessarian, his first book that he'd done, but very, very interesting, which I'd like to draw your attention to in here. There's a section here about dates and chronology. Now, he's put on there, if I can show it up to the screen, it's fascinating, the research and the source materials that is found on there. Chronology of significant events at the northern 33rd degree of latitude, 2589 BC to 1963 AD. And it goes from the pyramid, and it's pages and pages and pages of text about.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the page you just showed me, and a lot of these wing nuts are all dating the Great Pyramid at 10,800 BC and all that. And I'm saying the date you just showed me in this book is very, very close. It's very close to the actual building and construction of the Great Pyramid. So I'm glad to see that. I'm glad Michael Tessarian doesn't follow that weird wing nut.
No, we're so past that stuff, brother. Honestly, and like I said,
hey, Funky, the first book you showed, the Book of Enoch. Hey man, let me give a small description of what you're talking about, because I know what you're referring to, but I don't think our listeners do. You understand?
Okay, yeah, shoot. Okay. Go for it.
Okay, the Book of Enoch is describing that before the flood, there was a severe moral decline in the population, and it was caused by the Watchers, because the Watchers introduced new knowledges to the populace that God, through the prophet Enoch, basically was explaining to the people, you should have never had access to spermicides that would kill an embryo in the womb. According to the Book of Enoch, God did not want humans to have that information for abortions. They didn't want to have that. This was given to them by the Watchers. How to do weapons manufacturing, the smelting of iron to make steel and good awesome weapons and armor. God didn't want the human race to have access to this type of information. And new philosophies, a dark type of astrology, not normal astrology, but a dark type of astrology, divination, omenology, all these occult sciences, and all cosmetics, even cosmetics is mentioned in the Book of Enoch. All these things were given by the Watchers, and the individual and angel that gave humans these things was condemned by God through the prophet Enoch. This is what Funky Prepper is talking about the Book of Enoch, showing an immense moral decline before the Great Flood, and when it was caused by humans getting access to information they shouldn't have had, and then they ran with it, and it corrupted society.
Yeah. And look what's happening right now. We have the internet, and I should imagine there's been the internet on multiple civilizations in the past, and we can really dive into all sorts. This is an interesting book. We are not the first.
Yeah, I've got that on my shelf right now. I did a video on it.
You got that one too?
I have a video on that book.
No way.
Yes,
I do. Great book. I had to read it 3 times to understand it. It's an amazing book.
Funky Prepper, the title of my video is "We Are Not the First." Yeah,
we are not the first.
I did that video. I did that video. Yeah.
And we all know about the great man himself.
Yeah, Emmanuel Velikovsky. Yeah,
I've got all of his books in hardback. Fantastic books. We could honestly, and I've not gone through this. I'm just about halfway through with this one. The Art of War.
Yeah, Sun Tzu. Yeah, that's listen. That's a lot of Eastern philosophy. Sun Tzu. It's good reading, but I am more impressed, and maybe it's because I'm Western, maybe it's because I'm European or whatever, but you need to read The Art of War by Niccolo Machiavelli.
Yes.
Because Machiavelli
after I read that one.
Yeah, he also wrote one called The Art of War. And when you're done with The Art of War, I mean, you could read The Prince. It's a small book. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote the Prince too, but there's a rare book he wrote. Very few people ever referenced it. You can get it in paperback today. It's not a popular book, and I don't know why, because it's just packed with gems. But Machiavelli also wrote a book called The Discourses, and it's thick. It's big. I read that when I was in prison, and I was like, how come nobody ever cites this book? It's just one of the books that's just kind of hidden away. And Niccolo Machiavelli always wanted to impress the Medicis. He wanted to impress, but he never got the sponsorship he was looking for in his life. But yeah.
Exactly. And this guy, I have got all of his essays, Aldous Huxley. Okay. And he also done this one revisited as well. The reason I bring this up, because the book that I showed earlier with H.G. Wells, the links that I found between both of them, they are both in the Fabian Society. And if you look at the symbology about the Fabian Society, it's all about, even on the front of the book, it's all about reshaping the world in their image and their society of what they understand. Again, exactly the same society. George Orwell was a member. All of these books. This one's quite interesting. And apparently, this was a bestseller. I don't know if you've ever read this one. Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
I've never seen that book.
It's a really good book. Really good book. Basically, it goes into how the stages that they go to when they take over countries, and they sort of indebt them to the IMF, and how the system works with jackals and stuff. That's quite good. This book, I don't hear many people talking about this. And Michael Tsarion cited this way back in 2009, I believe it was. That one there, Alan and Delaire. Have you come across that book before?
Yeah, it's in my bibliography. I read it 10 years ago. I included it. I included that in my Nemesis X research.
Fair play, man. Yeah. I've got some catching up on your videos to do, and seems like we both got the same books. It's incredible. This one, apparently, I found this very, very cheap, but it is expensive now. That one there is quite interesting as well.
No, I've never seen that.
No, it's a really, it's a deep dive, but it's mostly all about economics. That one as well. Very interesting book. Again, lots of Michael Tsarion's work deep dives into this. And you know, when we said about things that come out before they happen, was you aware of this book in 2020?
The Eyes of Darkness, Dean Koontz. I don't know, but I've read about 10 Dean Koontz books when I was in the joint, and I don't. That was like in the early 90s, so I don't know what that book's about.
This one in particular, it goes into all of the details about a coronavirus pandemic. Guess what? Set off in Wuhan, and this was written 42 years ago.
Wow.
So all of the things which we experienced in 2020, fictionized in this book. Unbelievable.
Okay. Are you aware that let's see, in 1901 the Cincinnati Astral Society had published a bulletin, and I showed this on my channel, but they said that in the field of divination, that a gigantic passenger ship was going to get hit by an iceberg and sink in the Atlantic. So it was just a small note in the Cincinnati Astral Society 1901 bulletin, just a small note. But this guy publishes a book, and in this book, it's just fiction, but in this book, he names it the White Star Steam Line, and a ship called the Titan hits an iceberg and sinks. He almost even has how many people died nailed down, and some of the famous people who died on it and all that. And it's crazy because the book was published over 10 years before the Titanic in 1914. Excuse me, 1912. In 1912. Yeah. So he published his book over 10 years before that event even happened, and it happened like clockwork. So there's many incidents of this, and I can't remember all of them, but there's even one short story about the World Trade Center, and it went down just like it's found in the short story. Yeah.
Blimey. Do you know what? I've done it. You've probably come across this. I don't know, but all sorts of stuff that the program The Simpsons are uncovering as way before all this stuff happened. And it's really difficult to sort of get a take on it. I'm sort of 50-50 on that whole idea. But it's
it's real easy to doubt the Simpsons deals and just blow it off from our vantage point in 2023. But you got to remember, if you go back to each incident as it was unfolding, and then you realize, damn, that episode was 9 years ago. Damn, that episode was 15 years ago, especially when Trump became president in 2016. When you go back and see all these Simpson episodes, listen, I have already thought a lot about this. I've never done a video on my channel about it, but it's been in my mind. I've done a lot of thought about this AI. I call it artificial intelligence X. This AI that's running this reality for us right now. I honestly believe that it builds. It's got a timeline it's operating on. It's got its own protocols and procedures it functions by, but it has great latitude also to bring new things into the programming, into the field for us to experience. And I honestly believe that it's tapping into the collective human imagination on past events to construct future ones, and it's putting them together. Yeah, I've read that, The Holographic Universe.
Yeah. Cool book, dude.
Yeah, Talbot is a pioneer.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Again, with Velikovsky as well. That's quite an interesting book. When we go back through all of the civilizations in the past, which have been and gone. Again, that one as well. The Late Great Planet Earth. That's a cool book.
Yeah. Wasn't that Hal Lindsey? The Late Great Planet Earth is supposed to be Hal Lindsey.
Yeah, it is.
Where I don't see Hal Lindsey's name on it. Oh, okay. I saw Carlson. Okay. Yeah. I see it now. I see it.
It's with that. Yeah. But there's so much information. Did you know what? These books, when I started doing all my research back in 2008, 2009, they were quite cheap. But now these prices are going insane. You can get this for over $150 now.
Wow.
No joke, brother. It's just insane.
I know some of them are rare. You know what? You can go to a lot of these old bookstores and they don't even know the value of the books they have.
Yeah. It's very nice.
Many of the books I got in this library right here are expensive as hell, and yet they weren't sold to me at that price. Don't get me wrong. I've paid I paid $2,000 for a book before. So
Whoa,
that's how valuable it is to me. I want that book. But then again, there's other books that I paid pennies on the dollar, and they didn't even realize you gave me a book that on eBay says that only one other copy exists in the entire world. Somebody wants $3,000 for it, and you sold it to me for $5. So yeah, I've come across many deals because people just don't know what they have. I've even walked into antique stores, and I did a live video on YouTube one time about that. I walked into an antique store in Nevada. In New Mexico, and I can't remember the name of the town. I never can remember the name of the town.
Pamela would know, wouldn't she?
I could not believe that it's an antique store that's using old books as props to make everything look older. You know what I mean? But the books themselves weren't for sale. They had got a whole old library from somebody, and then just used the books as props and spread it all throughout the lamps and all the statues and all the stuff. I went through that store and boxed up. I'm talking about, and they were baffled at me. It says those books aren't for sale. Those are just props. I said, well, I'm willing to buy these. Are you telling me you're not going to sell me these books? So they said, well, okay. So they went to flipping through them, and they put $5 price tag on each book. I walked away with thousands of dollars of books, paying $5 for each one. Yeah.
You lucky son of a bitch. You got to be in it to win it, though, bro. There's a reason why you was there at that time. We all know this. But yeah, definitely the stuff that's happened in the past, it's not really on the internet as it was. I mean, I remember doing my research, like I said, back in 2008, the stuff I could search and look for and study there to find cited books for me to go hunting to actually physically get them. You can't see all that stuff now.
Listen, the internet was an excellent way, starting in 1990 all the way to about 2016. It was an excellent way to get all the information that's available by the human family into the servers. Then once the servers were able to process all that data, the intelligence agencies had all of it now. Now there's nothing new appearing in the field anymore. It's just a bunch of rehashed stuff. All the books have been downloaded. All the surviving books have been uploaded into the server. So now they have this was all by design to produce a pseudo AI. This is all by design. Yeah. So now they don't want to show their card by just pulling Google. They don't want to show their card by just collapsing all these search engines. So they do it very, very innocuously. They start scrubbing the internet of all these old and unique websites that we've been able to go to and get all this amazing information. They also basically cut off all kinds of access to DNS addresses to these websites so they don't pull up in your search features. So when you're looking for certain things, a bunch of websites just never appear anymore unless you have the actual name of the website or the link or a hyperlink that goes into that website. You can't even find them anymore. So you got to really know how to search now to do it. And sometimes you got to change browsers to find some of these old unique websites. And they're just not, I mean, there's a server that's got them, but they're just not there. Also, while they're slowly scrubbing the internet, they're also weakening the search engine features, like I said. But at the same time, they slowly introduce the Bing and the AI and the .ai, and they slowly introduce their new AI ChatGPT-4, all their open AI systems. There's got several different kinds. They slowly get the public using these and not depending on the old server-based system that everybody has come to know. So it's all by design. They can't do it fast, because if they did it fast, they'd reveal their hand. They reveal their hand. Oh, this is all about censorship. So they do it very slowly. And as they're doing it slowly, more and more of the population is relying on ChatGPT to tell them what the truth is, rather than them looking at multiple different options for them to decide what makes more sense.
It's the elimination of choice, isn't it, really?
Yes, it is. It is the elimination of choice. It's the elimination of data. It's the elimination of truth. So
I'll tell you what is good. I don't know if you've come across this before. You probably have. But for those guys and girls who haven't, I'm going to share this right now. Wayback Machine. This is a very, very cool website. Basically, if you have a very old link to an old website, you paste it in there and you go through it back in time before it got removed. If any of you guys have not come across Wayback Machine, highly recommended if you are doing some research. It's incredible.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, you need to check it out if someone's emailed you a link years ago and you go through your old email addresses and you click it, it doesn't work, it's broken. Hey, Dawn.
Yeah.
All good.
She brought me my customary coffee.
How are you doing?
Hey, how's it going? We got some Phoenix on the roll right there.
That's good. All right. Sorry we were late today.
No problem at all. Better late than never. That's the main thing. But yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable, because if you've got an old link and you try it and it doesn't work, you whack it in that and you will find it. You can go back chronologically back through time and you can see where the link would work. Click it, open it, and you're back in that website again. But no doubt,
that right there just tells me that they don't lose anything. They just hide it away in other servers. Yeah,
for sure. But not only are we under attack via an information war, as it were, which we've discussed about has happened before collapses in the past. We're talking about the gender thing as well. And obviously that happened with Rome before that downfall, and the birth of the Catholic Church as well over in Italy. All of these things have happened before. But what about financial collapse? Because we can go way back as far as you want. There's always been some ways or means to barter or trade goods and services with coins, therefore money. Have we got anything back in the records where financial systems or physical monies has just gone stolen or kaput, making everything go towards the breakdown of some sort of civilizations in the past?
That was really harder to detect, and it's harder to detect because up until the 1980s, most of the world was still engaging in barter. It was in 1985 or 86 when the United States finally passed congressional legislation to end the barter system in America, and it's because you couldn't tax it. It's I remember as a kid, my dad used to take me to barter shops, and the entire shop was full of everything that other people had already brought in and got something else out of, and you just paid a small fee for the exchange. Housewives wanted a better vacuum than the one they had. Then they would find something in the household that they could exchange, and who knows, it might be a lawnmower, it might be a grandfather clock, something that they could take in right there on the spot. Somebody would assess its value and then give you credit for whatever that value was in there. And if that vacuum fit that value, she could walk out with that vacuum. This was barter. Very little money was exchanged. It was only paid as a tip to the barter shop. That's how they made their living and paid their bills. But the barter system, when they outlawed that in the mid to late 80s, it was over with. Everything from that point on, they've been in pretty much tight control of all trade and economy. And it's really hard because, somebody traded goat for 10 cheese wheels and a sausage, back in the day. It's really hard because currency, coins and currency aren't near as common as you think. We do have some coins from the 18th to 17th century BC, and then it seems to fall away for centuries. Because remember the Great Mediterranean Dark Age?
Yes.
After that, coins
disappeared, isn't it?
Huh?
It's basically just disappeared off a record, isn't it?
Coins reappeared again. They were kind of primitive, and then they got real sophisticated during the Achaean League, early Greece. Roman coins got real sophisticated, or Carthaginian coins. But that's really hard to measure as far as financial collapses, because pretty much when an empire collapsed in ancient times, it was a financial collapse. That's what happened. It's just they were no longer able to fund all their outliers, everything they had as far going on. So
it is difficult, isn't it? I've tried looking into it, and it just seems to be a block. It's something that's really been really.
Well, I'm going to tell you now. The reason it's difficult to look into is because only until recent times, and when I say recent times, I'm talking about 500 years, was currency ever weaponized. We don't have any records from antiquity that talk about the weaponization of money and currency. But you already know this is a fundamental activity of the tiny hats. They have learned to take They have learned to take money because they don't have an army. They don't have an army. They don't have a military. They don't have any of that. But they're spread through all these different countries that have acted as hosts, and they live among them, and they've learned to speak their languages, learn their culture, but they still stay intrinsically tiny hat. They refuse to assimilate. But one thing that this people have absolutely become geniuses at is funding both sides of any conflict and always coming out on top financially for the better. They've learned how to weaponize money. This is how they brought the monarchies of Europe to their knees, because they indebted them. They loaned them so much money they could never be paid back. And the tiny hats knew they could never, these monarchies could never pay them back for all this, but that was all by design, because the tiny hats got that money freely through usury and loaning money out and being paid back exorbitant charges. It was very easy. If they needed the King of France to set up a ghetto so 7,000 Jews could live here at peace and experience rights, privileges, and immunities more than the local French people, then it was really easy. All the Jewish dignitaries had to do was go visit the court, get an audience with the king and the queen, and just tell them, here's the plans, here's the blueprints, this is what we need. It's going to take this many carpenters, this many deals, and okay, is this a feasible option? And the king and queen would look at it and say, hell yeah, because they could get all those wainwrights and boat rights and cart rights, and they could get all those lumberjacks and all those carpenters and stonemasons out there, and it would cost them way less to do that than it would be to pay the tiny hats back on that debt. So over and over, the Jews literally became super powerful throughout Europe, doing this exact same procedure over and over. They learned to weaponize money. And right now, we are experiencing the greatest weaponization of currency and money the world has ever seen. They are in control, and they can literally shut down the entire world right now. That's the position that they're in right now. And any other elite families that have been out there, because remember, they're usurpers. They were not among the elite until the Rothschild takeover of the banking dynasties. This is prior to the Rothschilds. The Jews were basically forcing their way in different ways. But remember also, right until the days of Lionel Rothschild, what was happening all throughout Europe? European countries get sick of that shit, and they kick the Jews out of their country over and over and over and over. But once the Rothschilds came into play, that shit was over. And now we had a whole new elite body politic. So whoever the elite were, and up until that point, I have to raise this point. There can't be a unified elite. There can't be, because there were already elitists here before the Jewish takeover. You understand? So there must be another facet of the elite who have been biding their time, been waiting to take back over. And I do believe that we are starting to see the events unfold of basically a war between the elite, which we have not seen in our lifetime. We've seen 2 or maybe 3 factions of the elite doing all their deals. Like, I'll give you an example. 100% of the elite weren't on board with that jacking for all that gold in the World Trade Towers when that happened. And 100% of the elite weren't on board with leaving $4 billion of military hardware in Afghanistan when we pulled out in 2022 in the United States. Brand new military hardware, enough to fund enough to outfit an entire army. So these are major moves being pulled by different factions of the elite, and the Jews are only one faction. And I'm really starting to believe, Funky, that I'm starting to see evidence that there may be an alliance between these 2 older factions of the elite against the newest faction, which are Jewish.
It's possible, isn't it? Yeah.
And I believe what unfolded with Gaza this year was a trap. And I think they took the bait. They were given permission to go ahead. Yeah, y'all go ahead and do what y'all want to do. Go ahead and do what you want to do. Oh, we don't know. We don't care. I do believe the elite communicate with each other, and in major world events that don't make sense to us because we're not we're not on the inside. And we're not really seeing. We think all these major players are against each other, and they're not. They're all of them are together. It's these over here they're against, but we don't see a lot of evidence of it. Like when remember when we were told that they were taking the Clintons down, and they took that barge and they left that barge in the Suez Canal. And remember the Delta Force teams that went there and raided that, and they found all that stuff.
Yeah.
These are elite power moves against each other. And we're just told some bullshit in the media. We're just told some crap. So there's a lot of things that don't make sense unless very recently, the Jews who have been getting their way for a lot of different things suddenly came up with intense resistance in 2020. In 2020, all of a sudden, this is what's crazy. In 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019, if your ass is on YouTube talking about Jews, you got axed almost immediately.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not just YouTube, but any other deals. Then all of a sudden, in 2020, Google buys YouTube. You understand? We already know who they're both owned by, but now Google buys YouTube. YouTube changes all it. I remember because my YouTube channel was young, and I was wondering if this is going to change anything because Google had to send me all new financial deals because my channel was monetized. And they said, "Oh, okay, we're not. YouTube's no longer taking your money. Now your money's going straight through Google services." Yeah. So this is what happened back then. They sent everybody with a monetized channel to a new monetary. We had to redo our monetary settings and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is what's very curious to me. In 2020, all of a sudden, not only could you openly talk about Jews on YouTube, but I didn't because I'm still real. I'm wondering if that's a trap. So, but on 2020 with the whole COVID, everybody's at home watching YouTube, watching all these different platforms, and now all of a sudden, these channels, they're not really axing anybody. They're not, it's rare to hear of a channel being canceled now. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with what their content is. It's because they don't pay their taxes. Google started reporting to the IRS every single channel who's getting paid. Since 2020, Google has released that information to the IRS. This is how much we pay our content creators now. When I read that and I'm looking at the list, I'm like, oh shit. Then I started talking to different people who had their channels collapsed, and they told me they didn't pay their taxes to the IRS. So it's all making sense to me now because I know who owns the IRS. It's not the United States. You know what I mean? It's not the United States. So we have now all of a sudden you can talk about Jews. And you can talk about a lot of things in 2020, but something happened in 2020 that's never happened before. Suddenly, all these Jews in Hollywood start coming up under severe heat. The Epstein flight list gets released. You understand? Epstein flight list. Then all these Hollywood actors and actresses just stop doing their shows. They stop appearing in movies. They stop appearing in movies.
Yeah.
All kinds of shit happens. A lot of shit was going on in 2020. And it's like, oh man, they're freestyling. They're making up all this. But still, we haven't seen these people. You know what I mean? They just like disappeared off the map. So so Hollywood literally empties out, and we get a whole slew of movies in 21 and 2022 with almost all non-entity actors who we don't even know who these people are. You understand? Major movies are being put out by now. There's still some of these actors in there, but if you pay attention to who they are, like Scarlett Johansson, she's Jewish. You know, you pay attention to a whole bunch of these actors and actresses. They're Jewish, and it would surprise you. The whole Iron Man deal, that dude's Jewish. What's his name?
Most of Hollywood is now. It's insane.
Yeah. But in 2020, it's like a whole bunch of actors and actresses who had signed the contract to work with the Jews, to push Jewish agendas, to push all these weird agendas and all that. They just vanish. They disappear. Or they get implicated in sex crimes. They get implicated in child trafficking. They get implicated in all these things. It's like in 2020, something happened. And then in 2021, it continues. There's more heat against all Hollywood actors and actresses. 2023, it has not abated. People now don't even trust any Hollywood actors and actresses. They think they all signed the contract. So it's not just Hollywood, though. Now, all of a sudden, all these banks get took down in 2020, 2021, and through 2022. All these bank chains, Jewish owned, all get taken down. So
Mergers, takeovers.
The reason I'm mentioning all this is because we lose sight of what's going on when we only pay attention to the particulars of the moment. Right now, it's Israel and Gaza. But what about all these other events? They're all related. They're all connected to each other. Something else is going on behind the scenes, but we're fed bullshit through the media. So we're fed false trails all the time because that's what they are. They're the architects of deceit, war by deception. So I'm not seeing a unified elite. I'm seeing friction among the elite. And what this Gaza deal looks to me, it looks like that the elite are always in communication, even though they're not getting along. And it looks like to me that the Zionists actually thought that they were going to get a pass. And that, okay, cool, we're going to be able to go in here and go ahead and finally just do away with this whole area, and we can put the news deals out that Hamas is resisting. Hamas has more resistance. We found more Hamas here. Oh, the Hamas blew this bridge up. There's never been a Hamas doing anything. It's all Mossad. Mossad is doing all this and dressed up as Hamas to get news clips. We already know how it works. Everybody knows how it works now. So they go in there and they genocide these people because it wasn't a war. You can't send in an armored column against civilians who have no guns, who don't have Jeeps, they don't have APCs, they don't have tanks, they don't have That's not what happened. The news says it's a war and it's a conflict or it's a military action, but that's not what's happening. The actual word is genocide. So they go in there and do all this and turn around and tell the world, but I foresee that this is going to come back and bite them on the ass, because what I foresee is going to involve you. It's going to involve you more than it does me, Funky. And what I mean is I believe that all these Muslim nations are already fed up with the nation of Israel. And I think they're absolutely fucking tired of Western nations telling them, leave Israel alone, it's okay, let them deal with their affairs. I think that all that shit's off the table and over with. I believe this shit's about to erupt. I don't believe any Muslim nations are going to go out in all-out war. They already know they can't mess with the UK and the United States and the French militaries. They're just never going to be able to do it. There are no Middle Eastern nations that can even mess with a Western army. We are way too sophisticated, technologically advanced. The missile warfare has completely altered the whole battlescape. There's no way a Middle Eastern nation can mess with us. One United States battle carrier group will go up against any one of those nations out there. It's over with, and they know this. They're not stupid. So what do? This falls perfectly in with the second seal, the breaking of the second seal.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
The Greek translation of the breaking of the second seal is nothing like the Jewish version that's been passed down to us. The Jewish version sounds like World War III. It's a red horseman. He's got a huge long sword and he goes forth to make war. And that's what the book of Revelation says. This is what the Judeo-Christian version has taught us to believe, but that's not what the Greek says. And I showed that on my channel using a Greek lexicon. It's very different. The red horse that follows is to take peace from the earth. And the Greek is very specific. It's not a long sword. It's a dagger. It's the weapon of an assassin. And it's given in the plural. Meaning the translation of the red horseman with a weapon that rides forth after Apollo Pharmakeia, which is the first horseman, is for the same reason, to take peace from the earth, create division between believers and non-believers, and especially to create the lockdown situations. That's what it's going to do, but for totally different reasons. Not for COVID this time, now for security. We're going to lock down all these areas for security. Why? Because according to the Greek, you're looking at Eastern nations using small arms in thousands of little tiny places all over at the same time, taking peace from the earth. This has already started. Even in the UK, in the past 3 weeks, there's been stabbings by Muslims in all different areas of the UK and in France. It's already started, but it's going to build. They're going to take peace from the earth. It's going to build all the way into the Olympics, where there's going to be a grand event caused by Islam in retaliation for what Israel has done in Palestine. This is how it's all going to unfold. It's already written in the field. And it's very easy to see, because remember, we're living in a construct. And there are things in the construct that have happened so many times over and over and over. We have access to basically program protocol texts. One of them is the Sibylline oracles, which we know of today as the Book of Revelation. It's all Greek Olympiad calendar, Greek Sibylline oracles. The Greek priest named Cerinthus is the one that translated the Sibylline oracles into what we have as the prophecies found in the Book of Revelation. Cerinthus did this and provided this, but the Judeo-Christian version tells us it was the Apostle John on the Isle of Patmos, which is all fiction. It's all fiction invented by the church to cover it up. So we have the Apostle Paul, who even tells us the code. He tells us the code. He says all these writings are for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and he actually enters where these people are located that should interpret the Book of Revelation. In every city he names, the Apostle Paul in the New Testament is a Greek city. Every single one of them is a Greek city. And from the beginning, you and I, our loved ones, our fathers, our fathers' fathers, we have all been hoodwinked into thinking that in order to decode this text, we need to understand the Judeo-Christian eschatology. And it's not. That's all the misinformation. To decode the Book of Revelation, all you need is the Greek. That's all you need.
Yeah. It's weird because you're saying all of that when we go back to the money stuff. Really interesting when I watched one of your videos, and it made a lot of things fall into place. We're talking about 1902, and we're talking about the New York Stock Exchange, the building. We're looking at Woodrow Wilson and the Federal Reserve Act and all of the changes of power with the international bankers. All happened around that time. And look what's happened since then, with the organizations moved up to the top, literally just handed over power. And then you got these breaking factions of these elites, is what people call them, fighting amongst themselves now, because there seems to be, and I agree, there is a power struggle going on. And it all links back to, I mean, when you found out, when you discovered that that building was completely taken down and rebuilt, that was very symbolic at that time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was. 1902 was interesting also because the United States of America, in that year, very quietly they changed the mint for the Great Seal. The Great Seal is like a coin. It's a Great Seal. Well, the front has always been the Great Pyramid in the eye, but the back was a phoenix, and it's always been a phoenix. Then in 1902, they quietly changed the phoenix to the bald eagle. That was in 1902 was a phoenix year. It's very similar to 1935, the New Deal. That was you've seen the back of the dollar bill, how it creates a Jewish star?
Yeah. Unbelievable.
You want me to share my screen? You want me to share my screen real quick and show it to you?
Yeah, go for it, dude. Bring it up.
I don't know if I can. Can I share? Oh, I can present. Yeah.
Of course you can.
That's awesome.
StreamYard rocks, dude.
Yeah, man, StreamYard is badass. Okay, let's see. I'm going to share my entire screen just for a second. All right, so right here.
Here we
go.
See that? Yep, there we go.
You see that?
Yep.
They came out with that. They came out with that in the New Deal. This is 1935. They came out with the design for the back of the dollar bill.
Yeah, I know. Unbelievable. Yeah. And also, when you look into the layout of Washington, D.C., Capitol Hill, etc., that's quite fascinating too.
Right? Yeah, that's crazy.
There's a lot going on, dude. Seriously. And I believe that Michael Tsarian picks up some of that in his book as well. And some of his presentations done a long time ago about the similarities between Rome and in Washington, D.C., of the layout, the Capitol Hill, the Oval Office, the womb, everything's all pretty much mirrored. So you are looking at a transition from the Roman Empire over to the US. And it does seem, everything seems to be attacked Western. So we're talking the UK, Europe, US, and Canada is being altered, which leads me into the point which I wanted to touch upon as well. When you look back at all of the mass migrations before collapses, again, we are seeing the same thing. We're seeing migration from the Middle East to the West. And that has absolutely happened in the past, and probably vice versa as we go back in time. And again, history repeats itself. I mean, how many occasions have you come across that sort of thing happen in the past before we have civilizations just seemingly collapse?
Yeah. It seems like we're heading toward the end, though. I mean, it seems like all these other collapses you're talking about in history, this is like a timeline that is punctuated by resets. But the one we're heading for now is fundamentally different. It's like, I'll give you an example. The antediluvian world, it has these coding protocols and it has this data that's attached to it. Okay, there's a carryover where this information in the field morphs into the next civilization, and it has many similarities. It follows the same template, and then it resets. You can call it the Hittite civilization. And then after that, you can call it the Amorite civilization, the Amuru. They do the same thing. Then the Egyptian dynastic, they do the same thing. Moving through the field. Then you have the Sea Peoples Confederation come in. They collapse Minoans, Mycenae. They collapse Troas, what we call the Trojan War. So the Philistines appear and become a major power, and then they spread to Crete. And now we have this Achaean League rises up, and we have the Greek. And when the Greek falls after the decline of Macedonia, then we have the Roman eagle rises. These are all. It's almost as if each past, like whatever you want to call it, epoch. You want a past sim or sim cycle borrows material from the prior one and adds to it, and then it collapses, and then it borrows material and adds to it. So what I'm saying is following all the way up to the present. You know, the collapse of the Roman, and then all of a sudden we have the rise of the Moravian kings of France, and from France the Goths and the Visigoths, and they all branch out, and we have these more European Germanic. Most people don't realize the Germans were Franks. Go back far enough, and the French and the German people are the same tribe. So under the Franks and the Germans, it's Germany, and then the Angles, the Jutes, the Saxons, all these people, the Burgundians. So we go back far enough, we find the same bloodline. It's spreading out now, and these kingdoms are collapsing. But we're now in the final collapse. And the final collapse seems to be an amalgamation of all the data from all the past ones. It's like all the data in the field is now with us here. This is why we know so much about history. This is why so many people identify with different cultures, not only present, but also in the past. This is why we have so many fundamentally different architectural styles, art styles. We have so much literature and books and different types of music. Everything that's ever existed in the field in the past sims is right here with us today, and it's promoted confusion, and it's promoted imagination. It gives us a whole bunch of variety, but it's all here now. We've never in the past that I know of had cities like we do today with these skyscrapers and all this stuff. We've had some really phenomenal architecture in the past that was impressive. But these steel framed skyscrapers is not something that I know. I can't see any correlates with any past civilization. So what it tells me is, and what I teach on my channel is that all these punctuated sims, cultural civilization world periods that end in resets. There's an editing process. During these resets, men and materials are removed and added. It's whatever the whim of the controllers are or whatever. And phenomena is either deleted. Things that didn't seem to work to the AI are omitted. And people who survive through the editing process, sometimes they're okay. They have weird memories. They believe things that happened didn't really happen. Other people find them very unusual. Like, man, you're just old and crazy. That shit didn't happen, when it actually did. They actually remember what the prior sim was before the editing process. Now, in 1902, we had the same thing happen. And what did they do? They just threw them all in asylums. They just threw all these people got thrown in asylums, and they're told they were crazy, but they weren't crazy. They were really remembering things that had happened just recently. But the rest of the population, the collective, they don't have that hypersensitivity. They believe they're very situational in the field, meaning they're very responsive to all the external stimuli. They're fooled every single time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
academia, for example. But I'll tell you what was quite interesting, which during my research back I started in 2008, and I bring people's attention now to the opening ceremony for the Olympic Games in 2012. Now, during your mathematics, your analytics, your isometric analysis with chronology going back through repeating timelines, does the number 8 come up quite frequently? The reason I ask is because what was shown on the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games in 2012, 8 years after, was 2020. Everything which was in that come to fruition. So I'm thinking the Paris Olympics next year, 8 years from next year, it's pretty much going to show, if it runs in the same timeline as what we saw in 2012, 8 years later in 2020, exactly what we saw with Boris Johnson in the hospitals, singing and dancing nurses, loads of stuff which absolutely come to pass. It's almost like, well, I know it's a ritualistic thing where they have to sort of announce in a coded way what they are planning to do. So 8 years from the Paris Olympics, where does that bring us, and what do you foresee with similarities and loops and stuff 8 years from next year?
Well, first of all, this is the Greek Olympiad calendar. Every 4 years, the Greek Olympiad calendar measures time in 4-year increments. This is the calendar of the elite. Now, the Olympic ceremonies are on that calendar. The presidential elections, they're all on that calendar. The number 8 has always been the number for new beginnings. It is the ultimate number for a cycle. This is why the number 8 looks like that. Sideways, it's the infinity symbol. The reason is because in this construct, the numbers 1 through 7 govern as a cycle. We call it a week. And a lot of things are in multiples of 7, like the book of Revelation. Everything's in multiples of 7. 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 thunders, 7 vials of wrath, 7 churches, the 7 names of God. All these different things are in multiples of 7. So with the number 8, this is how the numerology works. When 7 pass, 8 is the number 1 of the next series of 7. Therefore, it never ends. It's a closed cycle. Every time 7 pass, the number 8 is actually the number 1 of the next 7. This is the symbolism for the number 8. This is why it goes this way. So, yes, they performed the ritual in 2012. Who's the one singing on top of the bus? Who's the one pretending to be the Mad Hatter and singing like the Pied Piper of Hamelin?
I can't stand him.
I can't stand that dude either.
I can't stand that jackass.
They got Russell Brand doing that. That's his job.
I've called him out years ago.
Russell Brand in the ceremony, Russell Brand has a very specific duty. His duty, everybody's watching and they think he's just singing the show and all that, but he's on top of a van that is full of people. Check this out. It's a glass. It's full of people and they're all looking out, but they're specifically dressed unlike anybody else there. Yeah. They're dressed like hippies, free thinkers. You understand? Mm-hmm. Russell Brand, his role was to lead away all those who are awakening and trap them in another bus. Yeah. He is to distract the truthers. You understand? The whole arena was full of the construct. Everybody watching and observing is a part of the ritual. But the people in the bus were going a different way. Russell Brand is designed to keep them on going in circles, because that's what they did.
Yeah.
So
fascinating.
It's exactly what Russell Brand does on YouTube. It's
Hmm.
exactly what he does. He
Yeah.
gives you just enough information to make you think he is a truther, and he's giving you the business, but he's actually telling you exactly what the elite wants you to believe.
Yeah.
So
I've been calling out since day one, and there's
Yeah.
that YouTube channel called Redacted. I'll call that out. There's no way that just come out of nowhere with all of that funding, that high-end editing. I mean, we know what it's like to, produce videos. It's a lot, but that is highly slick. And there's
Yeah.
others too. We could go on and name all sorts of other, a myriad of YouTube channels, which is
I
come
agree.
from nowhere. And Russell Brand is just another one. So 8 years.
So I can give you some more though about this
the Paris Olympics.
Yes, the 2024 Olympics. It's very interesting, man. We can do this with a calculator real quick. I'm going to show you.
Yeah, you go for it.
Let's go with I'm going to show you the calculator. All right. So 2024. I got 2024 on there right there. I just want you to see it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
2024. We're gonna go back to the only other time there was a major terroristic event at an Olympic Games, and it was when Palestinians went in and gunned down 11 Israelis.
Whoa.
Okay, it's been exactly one jubilee, 50 years.
One bullseye.
So I'm showing you 2024 year anniversary is exactly 50 years, which is one jubilee after the terrorist attack of the Israelis being machine gunned at the Olympics by Palestinians. All right. That's connected in time space. A jubilee strongly connects it to 2024. But I'm going to take you even further than that. Because if you go one jubilee back even further in time before that happens, it's amazing. Here is 2024 minus 50 is 1974. Now, minus 50 more gives us 1924. Guess what happened in 1924 that is calendrically and conceptually connected to this?
The Olympics.
The Olympics were formalized in 1924, and it's the first time they invited a bunch of different nations. The Olympics existed before then, but it was a ragtag affair of just a couple countries.
Yeah.
Now it's formalized, inviting all these countries around the world, even enemy countries, and it's the very first time they rolled out the 5 rings of the Olympics. The Olympic rings that we know of now was debuted in 1924 in a ceremony. So, yeah, we have definite calendrical and conceptual evidence right here that in 2024 it's going down. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's just so crazy. I've got on my channel, I got a couple other calendrical connections that show you that, but it's on the 4-year Greek Olympiad. So I really foresee. Like Nostradamus. Nostradamus has a quatrain that talks about all this panic and mayhem that erupts from France. It's never been fulfilled. It's never been fulfilled.
I remember reading that years ago. Yeah, back in the 90s.
He even says Colosseum. So,
yeah.
Hey, you know what? I don't want to be there. You couldn't give me free tickets to that son of a bitch.
Hell no. Hell no, we won't go for sure. Yeah, get out of Dodge when that goes down. Because we're also looking at the massive problems that they've had in France with the migration as well from North Africa into their region.
It's all by design. It's all by design. The tiny hats have funded all this migration into the UK, into France, into Germany, into the United States. Every bit of this is by design, 100%. Sure. And it's by design for this event in 2040. These are all cells, and they're all holding out, and they're all waiting. And at the same time, they've all been briefed. They know what they're here for. They're all been briefed, and they've all agreed for their families to receive a bunch of funding from George Soros and all these other tiny hats to fulfill their part. This is not an invasion. There aren't enough of them to take over.
That's right.
What it's going to do is, on an unprecedented scale, all over the world at the exact same time, it's going to be basically terroristic acts, attacks against the water supply, attacks against roads, infrastructure, bridges, attacks against people. It's going to do exactly what the biblical prophecy says it's going to do. It's going to take peace from the earth. Exactly what it's to do. Is it the end? No. Are they going to take over? No. I believe in the United States, the good old boys will get together. We don't even need the military. We're going to take care of it. I mean, even in the UK, it's going to dissolve into knife fighting, batons, all kinds of stuff in the streets. And in the UK, the good old boys in the UK are fed up with it too. They said, no, it's going to end Islam in the UK. It's going to end Islam in the United States. This is what we're looking at. This is going to cause purges that local law enforcement can't stop. People are say, man, I don't give a damn about this. We're tired of this shit. All this locking us down, man. No, this is what it's designed to do, though. It is designed for all these countries to get their countries back. It's all by design. Because the next phase, which I have shown on my own channel multiple times. I've showed the eschatology and the calendrics of why I believe the next phase after this conflict with Islam between Western nations over the handling of Israel.
Right.
The next thing is ultra patriotism, nationalism, and conservatism takes over France, Germany, the UK. People start overthrowing their politicians. People start overthrowing, and here's where it goes bad, though. This is where it goes bad. In my predictions, I'm also predicting that all these people being liberated of these problems and doing away with these migrants and all the violence and all that, and starting to take control of their nations back. The problem is everybody's going to start swinging to the far right and very quickly. And the far right is already controlled by Christian fundamentalism. So the elite are geniuses at what they do. They're literally going to let people fight for their countries back and fall into a worse trap of this elite conservative Christianism, which is going to be focused on all-out war with Islam. So this is where I see it going. I see it going that way very fast, and I've been talking about it for 2 years on my channel. Even way before anybody saw the pendulum start swinging, I was already calling it. Guys, you don't understand. All this is by design. It is to take all these Western nation governments to the far right, ultra conservatism, Noahide laws, very restrict. Listen, it's going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing when when some people get that knock on the door talking about, hey, you need to come with us. We found you on OnlyFans doing something. It's going to be the legislation of pure moralistic laws, puritanical laws. I'm talking about a lot of these people who make their money like in the sex industry, and they're on OnlyFans, and they got websites where they do all kinds of stuff and they show their bodies and all that. They're finna shut that shit down.
Yeah.
And
do you know what they're doing already? They're making it now that if you want to access pornography next year, you have to be able to prove a biometric ID and face ID to access pornography. That is going to cause a storm, obviously. But before we even talk about that, I'm going to share the screen now about the Paris Olympics for next year. Now, there are the dates: Friday, the 26th of July, and the 7th of August. That's the window that we have. Have you done like a deep dive into a precise date that you can see all of this kicking off, or is that ongoing, or have you not got around to analyzing those dates?
No, I've been waiting for January of 2024 before I go deep on the calendrics. I've been so busy with other projects, I haven't really even looked into it much.
Rightio. But yeah, so we can look at all this.
Oh wow.
This is already Amiga. Look at this. An official sponsor.
The end. Omega means the end.
I know. Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, of course. With the Omega symbol.
The official sponsor. That's great.
You can't look at this. Look, it's even got the countdown clock as well. There is so much.
Hey, you're basically looking at a countdown to the breaking of the second seal.
Pretty much, dude. Yeah. It's astonishing, isn't it? Oh my God. Do you know what I'm thinking of? Let me see. PARIS Olympics 2024 partners. I always see the partners. Right. Who's involved? What are we seeing?
Airbnb, Alibaba. Oh, it's a bunch of them.
Yeah. Coca-Cola, of course. Intel, yes. Omega, yes. Samsung, Toyota, Visa, Encore, Carrefour, EDF, the energy, Orange. Interesting. Wow. There's a lot here, dude. A lot to unpack. Cisco. Unbelievable. This is just the A's. Dude, there's a lot.
You don't want to go through that whole list.
No. It's crazy. That's a story for a whole other show right there. But yeah, that's going to be some serious deep diving into the Olympics and symbols, etc. I mean, that man, I just couldn't believe it as soon as I saw the Omega symbol there. Typical. Crazy. Unbelievable. So yeah, we are going to be seeing, I call it like a fire button being pressed. It's exactly what we saw in 2020 and exactly the same as what we saw in 9/11. They were all fire buttons that were pressed to shift agendas. And it does look like they do these sorts of things every 10 years. But when you said 8 years, being an infinite symbol sideways, of course, everything is leading to the Paris Olympics. I must admit, it's going to be an interesting time, especially as a, what do you call it? A spectator, I guess. We're going to be literally seeing that, aren't we? Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, it's still this since 1902. This has basically been this is the cycle for the tiny hats. I mean, you gotta, if you follow the history of the 1800s, you'll realize they really struggled and they got blocked over and over and over and over. They got blocked in many of their designs. The Romanovs in the 1800s had basically kicked the Jews out, called the pogroms, over and over. And the Jews had basically sworn vengeance against the Romanov family, which they ended up executing in 1917. So
yeah,
it's starting in 1902. This last Phoenix period, it's been nothing but the rise of the Jewish Reich. The Jewish Reich completely rewrote history. They instigated the Federal Reserve 1913. I mean, how the hell did they do that? There was nobody there to vote it in. The United States. All over
Christmas holiday, wasn't it?
Everybody, it was a Christmas holiday. And then just a few of them showed up that at the instigation of the Jews. They passed a new law and basically hijacked the American economy, called the Federal Reserve. It's not a reserve. It has no money in it, and it's not even federal. It's just a way to steal from the American people. And it worked. And it's still in effect today. That's why I'm saying
Woodrow Wilson, wasn't it?
This is the 138 years that belongs to the Jews. The Jews were given this section in the construct. This is theirs. They executed vengeance on every country that has done that has basically exposed them and kicked them out in the 1800s, 1700s, and 1600s. So here in the 20th century, the Jews have been having it their way. They can't be defeated. They're everywhere. They're operating from all fronts. Even the other two elite groups have not been able to overcome them.
Yeah, it's proper embedded, aren't they?
I mean, it's amazing. They've absolutely totally infiltrated. Look at the genius of Trump. Look at the genius of the patriotic Trump who got all the Christian conservatives on his side. He's saying all the right things. I ain't gonna lie. 3 years ago, I was a Trumper. I was like, damn, I voted for him. I'm like, damn. It's the only time I've ever voted in my entire life. I did it because once I finished my sentence, I'm talking about years after I got out of prison, I was still on parole. But once I finished my parole and got all my rights back, the first thing the government did was send me a voter registration card. Well, I went ahead and filled it out and turned it in. They sent me my material, and I went to the county and I voted for Trump. So And of course, you already know what happens, but it was all by design. I used to feel sorry for Trump, like, oh man, they stole the presidency. Every bit of this was by design. Trump was on board. I had no idea. I had not done a deep dive on the Trump family. I had not really researched this man and realized, damn, he's married into Kushner's family. I had no idea.
I know. It's the illusion of choice, like everything else, brother. Every single person, Putin, Xi, all of them, they're all in the big club and we're not in it, obviously.
Yeah, no doubt. So Trump, there's still a whole bunch of people, Trumpers out there, but you know what? It doesn't even matter no more because the damage has been done. It's already over with. This is why I was so vocal about 107. You know what I mean? I named a lot of people on my channel, and I said, hey man, every one of these people are traitors. They should be treated as traitors. They were a part of the Patriot Pacification Program. Because America was just at that point of rising up in arms and overtaking the government when Biden became suddenly president and Trump. So it's almost as if the elite were trying to start American Revolution. They try, and another group of the elite were trying not for that to happen. So they just put out all these disinformation experts. And I mean, YouTube flooded with people, with channels that were all talking about the Q drops and all talking about, hey, just trust the plan. Everything. The U.S. military is doing everything. You know what I mean? So,
do you know what? I remember saying to a few people on live streams I've done recently, anyone who woke up, as it were, in 2020, all of those psyops were already planned, ready and waiting for them. The inauguration, I mean, man, if that really happened, it wouldn't have been like that. If the coronavirus thing was real, there'd be millions of bodies outside hospitals. And what we see in the UK is nurses dancing in empty hospitals. It's a complete freaking shit show. And you say, I'll tell you what you mentioned earlier, and I'm going to share the screen now, because I'm not sure if everyone are aware of what you said earlier about what we saw, the Munich massacre, 1972. There you go. The Summer Olympics. That's when we saw all of that stuff kick off with the IDF, etc. And we are pretty much going to see the same sort of thing continue in that weird cycle. Hostage taking, it's the same old BS, which they keep.
Oh, okay. Let me make a correction. You're absolutely right. I said 1974. I misspoke. It was 1972 when the Israelis were machine gunned by the Palestinians, which makes that 52 years. So I stand corrected. It wasn't 50, it was 52 years. And 52 years before that was 1920, League of Nations, when the Olympic circles were first used.
It was 20, yeah. I remember when Hitler and all that stuff, when all of the World War II, etc., had a big part to play in that. And again, he was just another puppet doing as he's told. Where everyone seems to think it's all organically grown, absolutely is not. Like I say, in 2020, man, they knew people were going to be seeking answers, and they already had. Trust the plan. I mean, really? And here comes Trump. What about the white hats and the Galactic Federation and the tunnels with all of the kids playing on people's emotions? It's all absolutely a psyop. And the only way that you could see through that as soon as it was playing out was if you woke up, and I hate using that term, way before that happened. But unfortunately, they knew people were going to be seeking, and it was already prepared, wasn't it? Absolutely.
I agree. I agree.
And no doubt we're going to be seeing more, especially next year when you say about the Olympics. More people are going to wake up around them, and I doubt they're already going to have systems in place for them to sort of fall into. And it's almost like people feel like they need to be a part of something. But I've just literally, like yourself, lead your life. Never, ever be part of a group. I never have, and I never will. And I do what I feel I need to do. I learn and I grow. I help and encourage and inspire. And, you lose the fear, you get confidence, people get drawn to your energies. And like you said on that live stream that we've done on my channel earlier, no one's here to save the world. We're here to sort of learn and grow ourselves. And if people connect to that energy and they do the same, then that's how it spreads. And we just have to wait and see how it plays out, huh?
I agree, 100%. I'll be sharing on Archaix TV. I'm sharing Oh, I'll be sharing these two big giant. These are huge books, but both of these tell the story of how these people came into power and how they keep that power. Yep.
Operation Zion, very good. Nice find, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I'm not into demon chasing. I'm into the truth, but I just absolutely refuse to believe that I'm here to change the world, because I believe we're living a construct, and I believe it's counterproductive. I believe the oversoul has allowed us to be all kinds of different things in different periods of time, different races, different echelons of society. I believe that you've sitting on a throne and you had the weight of the crown on your head, and you got to experience that, because under that type of pressure, it would develop different personality traits. And then you were a slave on a Phoenician galley. And then you may have been a female in ancient Rome at a textile facility. You may have been ancient Babylon, and you spent your entire life in the same room making different pots for your master on a potter's wheel. I believe that we've all had these different experiences, because by the end, we're approaching the end of this series of Sims. This is it. The proof is the civilization. We've never had a civil. This is the amalgamation of all past Sims together. That's why everything is so unusual and so weird and so dynamic and so diverse. All these great superstructure cities we've never had it like this in the past. But we're living in the final version right before this whole massive editing process reboots everybody back to the beginning, except those who are going to make Exodus, because that's another part of my belief. I believe that this system is in place for the maturation of immortal souls, and you can't mature if you never experienced anything, and you can't develop those necessary personality traits if you haven't been all those different types of people in those different types of situations. So, this is my belief system. It's the only one that makes sense to me, because it also tells me that I'm not to worry about all this bullshit that's happening in the world. I'm not a participant. I'm an observer. So
and like I say, errants operate outside of that system, and we choose to go in and out whenever we want to. And it's interesting you say about that. I mean, would you understand or possibly agree on leading up to 2040, especially when it all comes down? Would you say that the souls who have kept as an errant format rather than playing along and attaching have grown and evolved and everything else? Would you expect that those souls will be harvested and put onto the next sim for certain rates of developmental growth over all of the past lives, etc.?
Okay, first of all, 2040 is not an end. It's the sixth seal. The sixth seal results in 25% attrition. According to the prophetic text, 1/4 of the world's population will die, but it's accumulative. It's all the seals. It's not just the sixth seal. It's not the Phoenix. The Phoenix phenomenon doesn't result in 1/4 of the world's population. It's the end event, because the seventh seal is not an event in our world. The seventh seal, which would be 4 years after 2040, is something that goes on the outside of the construct among the decision makers. That's what's described in the seventh seal. The seventh seal is a small season of inactivity. And that's what you would expect after a pole shift type event. Everybody's getting their bearings back. Everybody's trying to figure out who's surviving, putting their communities back together. We're talking about some major event, but it's not going to have a lot of loss of life. Not like we think. Now, it's not like a total cataclysm. So this, the Book of Revelation is very clear. It is the summation of all the seals that results in 1/4 of the population dying. That means over a 20-year period, that means there's going to be a 75% survival rate. That's pretty high. Pretty high. So it's after that things get dark. Now 4 years after is 2044. Still, that's the breaking of the next seal. Then we have a short season. It says a short season, and the trumpets begin. Well, we have 2046 being something really, really, really weird. The change of time, how time is perceived, because we have everything being reduced by 1/3: the day, the night, the sun, the moon, and the stars. Now, Day is a concept, night is a concept, but the sun is an object, the moon is an object, and luminaries are objects. Therefore, for the prophetic text to say that everything is reduced by a third, and it goes from concepts to objects, then this basically means that 8 hours are going to be taken out of every day. It's not going to be 24 hours anymore. The day is going to be 16 hours, and that is going to fundamentally change human physiology. It's going to change gestation periods. It's going to change healing, how long it takes to heal. It's going to change cognition. The sky is going to be moving 1/3 faster. I don't believe the earth moves because the construct wants us to think we're on a planet, but we're not. We're in a realm. We're in a program. We're in a program. So the stellosphere starts moving. But according to Revelation, the day is going to be 16 hours and the year is going to be about 243 days instead of 365. This is going to change a lot of things, and that's exactly what we find in the prophecies of 1st and 2nd Esdras that were removed from the canon of Scripture and now a part of the Apocrypha. In those texts, it describes the changes that come in the human body. It describes a baby being able to run around and talk 1 month after it's born. So, there's a lot of changes in the human body. It also discusses monsters and hybrids and all kinds of stuff. So, man, it's not as bad as you think until the mid 2040s. Come the mid 2040s, things get real bad. You don't want to be here. But this harvesting event you're talking about, God is the harvest. We are basically, we're the harvest. God is the harvester.
Yeah.
Cataclysms are the reaper events. When he reaps the harvest. This is what's going to happen after mid 2040s, and I believe that many people who are already in avatars are in their final sim. This is what we see in the 5th seal of the apocalypse. When you read the book of Revelation, you read the breaking of the 5th seal, you see that many who have died have already been quarantined. They have not been allowed to come back. They're being sequestered for an event. And God even tells them, be patient. They say, hey, man, when are you going to exact vengeance on those who killed us? And he says, be patient, because he got more brothers and sisters coming. I believe that event is 2070. 2070 is when the prophecy in Revelation becomes true. He that is evil, let him be evil still. He that is good, let him be good still. There's no more going back. Once 2070 comes, your soul is locked. You're either going to be rebooted back into the program to start back in Genesis all over again and live through all these time periods all the way up to the present again, or you have been sealed. That's what the seals are about. You have been sealed and marked for Exodus, because that's what 2106 is about.
That's another sin, though.
2070 is the removal of the souls from the construct. But in 2106, he comes to set the captives free. This is in the eschatology. He is the stone the builders rejected. He's the chief cornerstone. The pyramid is the monument of man. Every stone represents a soul of man. So 2106, he comes back, which is the 7,344th year of the program. And I've showed that the program is 3 periods of 24, 48 years. If you remember in my study, on my videos, I show that the Exodus event is 2448 Annus Mundi. This is our year, 1447 BC. What this means, and the fact that 1902, check this out, 1902 began the pyramid countdown of layers. The pyramid is 203 courses, but 203 courses only goes to 5,999 Annus Mundi, not the year 6,000. But the pyramid wasn't finished. There's a cornerstone missing at the top. When the cornerstone is put there, it'll be 204 levels, which is equal to 1902, 204 years into the future is 2106, the year 6,000. So what this means is everything is cross-referencing. Not only is it 204 years, and not only is the 204th year 2448 plus 2448 plus 2448, which is 7,344 years of the entire timeline from 5239 BC to 2106, but 204 years from 1902 is 2448 months. equal to the inches of the Great Pyramid's apothem. The Great Pyramid's apothem is the sloping distance measured. This whole from the base all the way to the top, only once the cornerstone is in place, it is exactly 612 feet. If you take 612 feet and just translate it into inches, it's 7,344 inches. You can't make this stuff up.
No way.
Great Pyramid is the ultimate calendar from the ancient world, and it was specifically built to endure through every single sim to be available at the end times to be decoded.
Unbelievable.
It's amazing.
It's incredible when you consider, sandstone and all of its time, and it still hasn't been eroded by wind and everything else.
What you're seeing now is a dilapidated version of the Great Pyramid. You have to understand, up until recent history, it was covered in 100-inch thick white limestone casing blocks that the Muslims quarried, and they built the city of Cairo and the mosque of Sultan Hassan. They used a bunch of it for ballast and roads in the desert. And for ships and all that, but yeah, there's 140,000 casing stones missing, but there's 4 still attached to the Great Pyramid at the very base, and they have been very intensely studied in the last 150 years since they were excavated in 1837 by Colonel Howard Weiss. But yeah, up until that time, everybody thought it was a myth about the casing stones. But no, we found them. There's 4 of them still attached to the Great Pyramid.
So it was true then.
It is true.
Wow.
It is true. Which scientists have already measured those 4 and extrapolated. It would take exactly, 144,000 of these stones to cover the Great Pyramid.
Graham Hancock would probably disagree.
I don't know. I'm not really. You know what? He's neither here nor there. He's got some good stuff, but that's how you deceive people. You got to put in some legitimate stuff, but man, his chronological material is so terrible. Why did you get me started on Graham Hancock?
I'm sorry, dude. I didn't mean. We know what it's like, and that freaking Carlson as well is as bad. But I'll tell you what is interesting though. You saying a little bit of a dive there into the pyramids. The Sphinx is something else. There's so many mysteries surrounding the Sphinx. It's unbelievable.
I'm going to show you something. Look, I'm going to practice my present skills. All right?
Go for it, man.
I'm going to practice my present skills real quick. Let me go straight into Google. I'm going to put Sphinx. I'm going to go to images. I'm going to show you something that pops right on up. I'm looking for an aerial view. I should have Googled that.
The size proportions are something else as well, aren't they?
Well, that's exactly what I'm about to show you.
I thought you was going there.
See, this is the problem. You have to specifically put aerial view.
Yeah.
Because listen, it's they don't want to show it to you. And they still try to hide it, even in the aerial views.
It's getting harder. That's what we said earlier on with the information that's being edited and eroded.
Yeah.
We're probably witnessing it real time right now, to be honest.
Okay, I found it. I'm about to share my screen. I'm about to share my screen.
Yeah, go for it and I'll ping it up.
Okay, let me share screen. Share screen.
Oh,
entire screen. All right, cool.
That Phoenix is real gassy too. Right. Okay, man. We add it to the stage right now.
You see this?
Right. Yep. Okay. Look at the size of that head. Look at the size of them paws.
Okay, so you're looking at a statue from the ancient world. The largest surviving statue from the ancient world is 240 feet long and 66 feet high. It's disproportionate. Look at the size of the paws compared to the size of the face.
Yeah, exactly.
When they show pictures of the Sphinx, they actually show it from a frontal area, and they always enhance the size of the head so it looks like big old wings for ears and all that, and you can't see the disproportion. But when you look at it from an aerial view, it becomes very, very obvious that this is not the original head. That's the neck area. That's where the neck was for whatever this thing, whatever was here. You understand?
Yeah, yeah.
This was how big the neck was, and they carved it into this headdress and put a human face on it. But it's wildly disproportionate. But when you look at sphinxes all throughout ancient Egypt, they're not disproportionate, and the heads are the heads of Anubis. They always have the head of the dog Anubis, but the sphinx that has a human face isn't Egyptian; it's Babylonian. The sphinxes that are found all over Nimrud, Calna, Assyria, Uruk, Ashurbanipal's library. Listen, those sphinxes in Babylon always had a bearded human face. Egyptian sphinxes always had the dog Anubis.
Unbelievable.
What this tells me is that somebody came and carved that dog head and dog neck all the way down to what you see here, because this would have never been accepted in ancient times. When everything is to scale, all of a sudden the Sphinx is not. Look at that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. I'll tell you what, if I can, I'm going to...
doesn't even make sense.
I'll tell you what, I'm
also going to draw to your attention. I'm also going to draw to your attention the fact it not only is it not to scale, but the rock for all the new parts is dark because it's not as old. It hasn't been exposed to the elements as long as the body, which is almost white limestone bleached. Look at how dark the headdress and the face is.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Yes, it's definitely differences there, isn't there?
That's not the original. That's why.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if I can show this as well. I've just been doing some digging myself. So here we have it right here. This is as aerial view as we can get it. And absolutely, if you can see on the screen there, let me see if it's coming up. Yeah.
Right.
It's tiny. Look at it now.
Very, very tiny.
It is. I mean, we look at the size of them feet. This should be at least around here. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the head should be forward. It should be over the. It should be. The actual nose of Anubis should have been over the elbows, the front of the palm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a lot of study on that, and it's the deceit would have happened a very long time ago because ancient traditions also put a face on the Sphinx. So we're looking at something that happened a long time ago. It wasn't any time recent.
It's really hard to find all of that stuff because we can fast forward to more recent times when you got the US, they went into Iraq back in 2003. And they went into the Baghdad Museum and they went straight past all of the gold and they immediately confiscated all of the clay tablets, etc. Wow. That absolutely happened. And look at all of the things that ISIS have been up to around that time until present. All of the defacing and the toppling of all of these really ancient sites. That's been going on for eons pretty much, hasn't it? So it's really, really hard to go all that way back to find any evidence of what exactly happened all those years ago, because as we know, most of it's just buried right underneath our feet.
Yep. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, on my channel, I read citations from old books where mining companies and drilling companies have found evidence of infrastructure even 600 to 2,000 feet depth. We're talking about paved roads, bricked walls, statuary, jewelry, stuff that's been pulled up from phenomenal depths. It's like, what the hell? It's like somebody just came and buried 600 feet of dirt on top of an old civilization.
Unbelievable, isn't it? And look at Herculaneum as well, when all that got buried and all that got preserved. I mean, you said about the sex thing, the masturbating man there and everything else. It's just all just preserved, and that stuff is just incredible.
Yeah.
But like we find out, the more that we dig deep, the more that we realize what's going on. And like you said, when the seal goes and everything changes back in 2040, which is coming up, not that far away when you think about it, really does make you think. And do you know what? There's a lot of disinformation out there, because some people were saying it's the opposite of what you were saying. It's not a quarter will go, a quarter will survive. There's some of that being put out there too. So it really does twist the fear thing, which we know over time to sort of don't play in the fear game. I mean,
Yeah.
why? It just lowers your vibration and everything else, doesn't it?
Well, we've been through this before. This isn't our first rodeo. This isn't our first time. I believe many of us have been through here. Like I said, it's all about experiences. It's all about acquiring those experiences. As long as you're jacked in by virtue of the central nervous system into an avatar, which doesn't belong to you. This avatar is a part of the construct. Because it's a part of the construct, you're basically subservient to it, and you are. You can't travel outside your body. You're subject to pain. You're subject to pain. You're subject to all these things. You are trapped inside a piece of the construct. But that piece of the construct gives you the liberty to move through the construct and do certain things. You just have to obey the laws of the construct because it's a piece of the construct. However, I'm so on board with the fact that we are immortals and we signed up for this, and this is all illusory, and that the only reason you can't remember who you were in the early 20th century, in the 1800s, the 3 individuals you were in the 1800s, the 5 individuals you were in the 1700s, the 2 individuals you were in the 1500s, one individual you lived over 100 years in the 1400s. Listen, whatever, however many life sims that you've been different people at different stages of life. You've had great power. You've been just a regular soldier on the shield wall. You've been a general. You've been a king, and you've died in dungeons. You've done it all. But I believe that once we exit, only those who make the exodus, once you're removed from this construct, wherever we are, if it's a bigger construct also created by the oversoul, I don't know. But wherever we are, once we remove from here, we remember everything. That's when we get the gains. That's when, oh wow, I remember everything I went through. I was this, and then when we go back to where we're from, we come into contact with friends and family out there, and they're like, oh man, I haven't seen you in a while. Where you been? Man, I went through the Nemesis simulation. Said, oh, you went through that one? I'm not ready for that one yet. I'm not ready for that one yet. And then I believe that there's different degradations and there's different ascensions. There's different things that we can volunteer for, and it's all up to us. But it's an infinite amount of development and growth, because I believe God is eternal. And being eternal, the creation is never finished. And as long as there's always new worlds and new experiences and new cosmoses being developed, there's always going to be a need for new souls to develop certain hierarchies to get to that level, to be able to help administer those new cosmoses. I believe that's what our role is. I believe that we're pieces of the divine. And that's why I'm always talking about no fear. You can't fear any of this. Fear makes you a participant.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, if you buy a fear ticket, you're welcome to play along with the game, which of course, we've way past grown that. But the weird thing is, when you speak to people about this sort of stuff and they don't fully sort of get any of it at all, how the hell do you explain to these guys what we understand about deja vu? Is it flashbacks or previous lives?
Well, it's going to be the same thing as Mandela effect.
Exactly.
Listen, people can argue against the existence of Mandela effect all they want, but the truth of the matter is a lot of people have come out saying that Mandela effect is a psyop and that companies are intentionally changing their logos. That's bullshit, because you got people who are going in their attics and they're finding the originals for which other people are saying that have never changed. If the whole collective believes that something hasn't changed, and yet you pull an old version out, open up a book and show, here's the original here. Here's Berenstain Bears right here. You understand? The very fact that some of these Mandelas are still detectable means it's not a psyop. It's not a psyop at all. Nobody's intentionally doing this. In fact, there's the list of Mandelas is now in the thousands. But Mandela effect is no different than deja vu. Deja vu is the recognition. You have an actual moment in time when you realize, holy shit, I have just lived through something I just recently did. It's almost as if there was a replay, or your timeline was switched off and then rebooted, and you started from 2 minutes in the past.
Yeah.
And then started moving forward again. Whatever it was, it's beyond my kin. All I know is that Mandela effect, editing of the holography is no different than deja vu. The difference is a matter of perception. One of them is outside of me. The other one is I'm experiencing. Deja vu, I'm experiencing. Mandela effect are changes in the holography. So deja vu, Mandela effect, synchronicity is another one. Synchronicity is one that's very ignored by a lot of people, but synchronicities happen all the time. You know, when you're driving around and you see the same number on license plates over and over and over, it's like, what the hell? The hell?
Yeah, I know.
It's just crazy. You see the same number, same signs, you see the same people, or the same situation unfold. You, as a spiritual being, are actually tapping into the field and seeing the programming for what it is. And this is what it is. This is what being awake is. It's when you realize the deceit, the deception, all the falsity that's around you. This is why I have a theory that you're ripe for exodus. The construct can't contain you anymore. You have already been exposed to too much awareness to realize, okay, this ain't even real. All this is fake. And it doesn't value you, and it doesn't value the construct for your continuance here. Therefore, you're going to be a part of that next reboot. On that next reboot, you make your exodus. You leave the field. Remember everything you've done here. You take your advantages with you, and you go on about your life and your business, because you're really an immortal. And none of this. You sign up for all these. I mean, there's no way you're going to ever wake anybody up, Funky, if they're not ready. If they're not ready to hear what deja vu is, they're not ready to hear about Mandela effect. I mean, they're just not ready. And I really don't believe that we should go beyond the norm. I believe that I should describe something as I believe it and then leave it alone. If it plants a seed, they'll be back. If it doesn't, they're a part of the collective. And I would be wrong for trying to impose too much understanding on a soul that's not ready to receive it.
That's a really good point, dude. Seriously. And I think we all go through these stages, don't we, as we progress through understanding with everything. I mean, back in the early days, of course, you know, when I woke up, all I wanted to do was to tell everyone about it, how corrupt and stuff it all is, and how ridiculed it was. Man, he went through it too. And I guess we all do. And we do over time, and it's dependent on the person and what they experience and what they've had happen to them before. You are going to realize at some point exactly what you just said. There is no point wasting your energy in trying to convert someone who is just not ready. It's not going to benefit anyone else. All we really need to do is to focus on ourselves, to grow and evolve. And like you say, plant seeds is exactly what I do. You have a tiny little conversation with someone in the supermarket, a stranger, talking about cash is good and card is bad, and leave it to them. Let that seed grow in its own time. Because, man, I'm sick and tired of banging on these bloody heads of these dumbasses. They're just not ready. And we just have to leave them be, because the weird thing is, and this is where ego comes in, once upon a time back in the day, we was asleep as well. So we have to just leave them alone, give them credit, and just let them be. And we carry on our own paths, isn't it? So
I agree.
But the fear thing, and I remember you saying in a video a while back now, you know, you can walk into the room and without fear, and people pick up on that. It's been happening a hell of a lot to me. And you just get filled with this confidence, which you probably never had before. It's grown and it's developed, and you just lose the fear. You don't give a shit. No one gives a flying fuck about whatnot. And the people that just come into your life for synchronistic reasons, all part of your journey to, like you say, head towards the exodus door, pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. You it is very noticeable in public when you have adopted I mean, it's not bravado. I'm not talking about bravado because some people will mistake that and they think acting macho and bravado is what we're talking about. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about absolute objectivity, which is no fear. Objectivity meaning I'm just an observer here. Everything is almost amusing, and so yeah, it's crazy.
I know it is. Listen, bro, it's been absolutely awesome to talk. And one of these days, when we get some more time, we can deep dive all kinds of stuff. But I just wanted to touch base on, the stuff which is happened before and potentially coming down the pipe, moving into the future. And I think we've dotted a few I's on some of the things we talked about tonight. And I think the viewer who is keen to learn about this sort of stuff, I'm hoping that they've learned something too. And
I'm gonna show you something real quick.
Okay, dude. But I will put the link to Jason's YouTube channel and Archaix.tv as well, where Jason talks openly about the stuff that we just can't talk on YouTube. So here he is, boys and girls. He's going to bump it up.
I'm going to show you a couple. We need to do another one pretty quick where we just show off some of our toys, our survival stuff. You know what I mean?
Dude.
This right here is a Reaper weapon. This is a modern. This is an ancient spear made by a modern manufacturer out of modern materials.
Oh, I've seen that dude before. That is an awesome letter opener you got there.
This is an awesome spear, man. It's heavy, but in America they advertise super sharp. They advertise this for home defense, but that's how they get away with this. And this right here is a 50 caliber pistol.
Oh, damn.
I don't have it loaded right now.
That son of a bitch.
Well, I don't have it loaded right now, but that's a 50 caliber pistol right there.
The judge said you mustn't point weapons, dude. And pack it in.
And I'm going to say it's amazing. It's a 6-shooter, 50 cal, and it's entirely pneumatic, meaning it's air compressor. 50 cal.
Whoa.
Yep.
I do like that, dude.
They also advertise. They also market that as home defense. So I got a lot of toys, man. I got a lot of stuff. One of these days, we just need to do a funky prepper show and tell of all kinds of survival gear, not just weapons. I got survival gear, badass collapsible fishing poles and reels and stuff, all kinds of stuff.
Oh hell yeah, exactly.
But we can't do it on YouTube, but we can do it on our shows.
Do it on here all day long.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this man.
I can't even get this son of a bitch in shot. It's so big.
Yeah, I got a sword too, but it's not like that one.
Yeah, this was sent over from a friend of mine who recently passed away, actually, in Ohio, by cold steel, and it's the two-handed katana machete.
Yeah,
and that's got a tip on the end.
That's amazing.
It's got a drop point on there, and that will pierce most things. And it's fucking razor sharp as well. This isn't a toy. It's pretty much the real deal. But I know what you're saying, man. We should be doing a weapons series or something, because we can do what we like on these platforms now. You start fucking around with this shit on YouTube, you're going to be in serious trouble, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't show it on YouTube.
Nah, man. If you want to get your video pulled, go on.
I'm gonna let you go then, man.
You go for it, dude. And really appreciate you spending your time, because I know you're how busy, and I'm pretty guessing you're going to chow down on some of those steaks pretty soon, because I know it's feeding time at the zoo over in Texas.
Yeah, I think it's a pork chop tonight. But, I do like my pork.
Hit and run with a pork chop, dude. That's awesome. So I'm going to leave everything that I know about Jason underneath this video. Archaix.tv and his YouTube channel and his website too. So if you want to check him out, go for it, and tell him I sent you. And we'll catch up another time when you're fine and dandy, sir.
Hey, when you get a chance, also send me the video file and send me an email with all your links, so I can send some traffic your way. I got people that subscribe to Archaix TV that once they know that you got your own deal going on, they'll come subscribe to you. Sure,
fair play, man. I appreciate that, because we're growing communities, and It's on and it's strong, brother, and it's not going to stop. We got a mission and we're sticking to it. So you take care of yourself, brother.
All right, later.
Cool. Take care. Bye.